Welcome to Our Voices. We are in the midst of a political season right now. We are in the midst of candidates for the city of Charleston, city council, as well as mayor. With me, I have my guest. He is Mr. Chuck Hamsher. Chuck, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Ray. How are you? It's a beautiful day in Charleston.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing your story with me, as well as, again, you are running for city council at large. Before I get to my questions, Chuck, please tell the viewers something about Chuck Hamsher.
Well, I moved to Charleston. I was raised in Huntington. I moved to Charleston 40 years ago. Came up here to go to work at Citizen Action Group. Actually, it was a dream of mine to come to Charleston. When I was a kid, I came to page at the legislature, and I liked what I saw, and that excited me. And so as soon as I could and finished school, got up here and went to work for Citizen Action Group, working on consumer issues, environmental issues, things such as that. I went from there to the West. I was director of this West Virginia Coalition for the Homeless for a number of years. And from there, went and worked with a variety of nonprofit organizations, community groups, doing government relations and advocacy at the State House, but also in city halls and county courthouses all throughout the state. So spent 34 years doing that. While I was doing that, my wife and I also opened a business, the Purple Moon. We're located in downtown Charleston. And we opened that in 2005. And we weren't sure when we did it, it was going to last 6 months, but here now, almost 17 years later, we're still here. So raised my family here. I love Charleston. And that's one of the primary reasons I'm in the race right now.
Chuck, let's get it started.
Okay.
Chuck, you are running for a position at large.
Yes, sir.
What does the position of at large a council member mean to you, and how does it differ from a council member in a certain ward?
Well, I think it's a bit of a structural issue here in Charleston, just the way the makeup of the council is. There are 20 ward council members, and there are 6 at-large council members. Being at large doesn't change. They still have the same vote, the same voice. Really doesn't change a whole lot beyond what the ward council members have. But I think there's a little added responsibility to kind of look at things on a broader basis and look at it from the viewpoint of the entire city, where ward folks may concentrate and should concentrate on the district they're elected for. The at-large members, for better or worse, probably take more of a bird's eye view of looking at the entire city, and hopefully that balances out. I know there's been discussion on the size of council. We have a very large council. Matter of fact, they passed a resolution late last year that they're actually going to look at that over the next months. I think it's actually into next year before an actual report is given to see do we need this many? Is this a structure that we want to keep moving ahead with? Because certainly cities our size have done just fine with smaller councils. I think there's pluses and minuses. Quite frankly, I haven't even made my mind of where I am on that. I want to see the study, have council examine it and discuss it, and more than anything, hear from the citizens, hear what they have to say about it. Because particularly those ward folks, they're real responsive. That maybe someone that's a few blocks away from you. And so we want to make sure that we're listening to the citizens of the city in making that decision.
Chuck, what would you like to see changed in Charleston?
Well, I think there's a few things. I would start as I think I would like to see us change our attitude a little bit. Sometimes, and I think this goes a little bit for the entire state of. Sometimes we're pretty negative about where we are and where we live. I'm pretty passionate about Charleston. I actually, a few years ago, I started making buttons that people wore that said great things are happening in Charleston, because I believe that. I think we have great opportunity. That doesn't mean everything's perfect. It's far from it. There's certainly challenges that we've got to face. But I think that we need to take pride in our community and build on the assets that we have, because I think we've got a lot of assets here in the city. That's one of the things I want to try to focus on. Also want to, throughout my career, and I've alluded to this a few times, is throughout my career doing government relations and working on changing public policy, I believe the best policies come from the involvement of the citizens that are impacted by them. And so I want to make sure that when issues are before council, that we're really hearing all viewpoints, we're discussing this in the community, and that we're taking that into foremost consideration and making decisions, because it is, like the slogan of our campaign is, it's our city and it's our future. And I believe that. And I think we're the ones that have to control our own destiny. And the best way to do that is to have people speak out. We had that conversation a little bit through text earlier in the week, of that, one of the things I think is great about your show is that it gets people talking. It gets people communicating and sharing ideas and different ideas sometimes. And that's okay. I'm like many people, I'm a little frustrated with the bitterness and the animosity and the things that come through sometimes on social media, and just taking shots at people isn't going to solve problems. What solves problems is sitting down and focusing on solutions and looking at what's the best way to reach those solutions.
Okay. So, Chuck, as I mentioned about some of the needs that Charleston needs, what are your thoughts on the West Side, and what would you like to do to build that up? I know that I interviewed Pastor Matthew Watts,
right,
and there have been some bills that have been passed in the legislature, but there was no funding by the state to put money in to fund these bills to go to the neighborhoods.
right.
Do you see the city of Charleston stepping in to lend a helping hand to upbuild the West Side?
Absolutely. I think, and I think we're seeing a lot of that right now, actually, through the American Rescue Plan funds that are coming out, because a whole lot of those dollars are being focused over on the West Side. And I think it's a huge issue that the legislature passes something but then doesn't fund it. One of the things that I think is imperative for local officials, city, county, is that things come downstream and things come down from the state. And I think we have to serve as advocates for our community. That's an arena that I was in for 34 years up at the state legislature, working to make sure that good policies got into place and also got funded. So I think there's a role for the city in advocating for that, and then also looking at what those initial needs are. What are the immediate needs, and are those areas that we need to make budgetary allowances for within the city budget? Certainly, I've done a lot of. I used to live on the West Side. Actually, I lived on the West Side on Randolph Street when I first moved to Charleston 40 years ago. My kids were raised over on the West Side, there's some challenges over there. We've got the issue of some of the dilapidated structures and buildings that are there. That needs to be addressed. And once again, some of that's going to be done through the American Rescue Plan funds. The city's already been doing some in that. I'm also a bit of a preservationist, that I like to see save some of these if possible, rather than just bulldoze everything. Sometimes that's the only thing to do, but we need to look at what's best for the community and have those dialogues. The West Side is important to the city. I think, it is, and you have some great, there's some great ward folks over there that represent the folks really well. But we've got to work together. We've got to look at these. I think that issue of the unfunded bills from the legislature is something that we should all be rolling our sleeves up and talking to the legislators, talking to the House and Senate members up there, and saying, why isn't this made a priority? And I think that goes with a lot of issues that we're probably going to talk about here before the interview is over. We talk about the opioid crisis. You talk about things like that it's not just a Charleston problem. It's a Charleston problem. It's a Kanawha County problem. It's a Boone County problem. It's a Mason County problem. It's a state of West Virginia problem. And so we've got to all be working in conjunction and in partnership with each other, and making sure that we're truly addressing these issues.
Chuck, since you mentioned the opioid crisis, what is your plan to curb this epidemic? Well, to curb the crisis here. How I know there's no easy fix. There isn't. Yeah. What's your plan to?
Well, and you're absolutely right. There isn't an easy fix, and there's no silver bullets for any of these things. There's not the one thing that's going to make everything better again. I think it takes a lot of combination of things. My family is like many other families here throughout the city, throughout the state. We haven't been immune by being impacted by the issue of addiction. In my family, we've seen the miracles of recovery with some of our family members, and others have seen the heartbreak that happens when that doesn't occur. I think we need to do everything we can to make sure that the resources are in place for when folks are ready to get clean, that we've got beds for them, we've got a place for them to be, we've got the assistance they need to truly break out of the addiction. It is, I was out walking, been walking, knocking on doors, and talked with a gentleman, and they had a family member that they've been trying for 3 weeks to get into a treatment center and couldn't get them in anywhere. That's every day that goes by, there's more risk. Every day that goes by, that person may not be ready to come in again. So we've got to have a coordinated effort. We have to make sure the resources are in place, and be prepared to deal with folks. I think the city's done some really good things over the past few years. The care office that actually has folks out in the street, talking with folks and trying to get them pointed in the right direction for the services and the help that they need. We need to look at that program as a model, as a way to expand it and make sure we're reaching everybody we possibly can. It's a real tragedy. I mean, we have the potential of almost losing a big part of a generation to this, and that's really sad. And we need to address it. So it's partially treatment, it's partially making sure there's the mental health services that are there. And after COVID, I think mental health services are in such huge need, not just for folks in addiction, but for folks that have been isolated. Those things need to happen. It needs to be a coordinated effort that looks at this. And again, I go back to, I think we need to be coordinating with our county and with the state partners and with federal partners, and all along the way, and making best use of all those resources to attack this issue, because it is critical.
Chuck, when we mention the opioid crisis, you got to tie in the homeless situation as well. Do we have a solution? Do you have a solution for the homeless?
Again, there's not a silver bullet. What my experience has taught me, and I spent a better part of 4 years working as the state director of the West Virginia Coalition for the Homeless, and what I believe is that we've I think this was mentioned by Emmett Pepper when he was on your show, who was one of the other candidates for at large, of that the homeless issue sometimes gets conflated in with 2 or 3 other issues and problems that may be going on. I believe that the best way to get people the help they need is to deal with the most pressing issue, which is getting them a stable place to live. I believe that is, it's harder to get folks if it's substance abuse, if it's mental health issues, if it's if it's just lack of education or lack of a job. There's as many reasons for homelessness as there really are people on the streets sometimes. And so we've got to be prepared to address those issues, but we can't do any of that if they don't have a stable place to be. And so I'm a believer in the housing first model. I think we need to coordinate our services a lot better. Make sure that all of our the social service agencies, resources in the city are all working together in a coordinated plan. We took when Covenant House decided earlier in the year to shut down the day program, that had a ripple effect, and to agencies trying to help, and to the city. Folks just didn't have any place to go anymore to take care of some basic needs. We need to make sure that we're ready to deal with those changes when they happen and not after the fact, because there's a lot of tragedy that happens. There's a lot of pain to the community. It brings up just a whole lot of things. I also, the opioid crisis, we've got to get the politics out of it and talk about real solutions. And have the hard conversations, and sometimes they're going to be hard conversations, but do that and look at how we're going to build a program and a system that's going to work for the folks that need the help, and do so with compassion.
Chuck, I'm going to save the good part for last because as you're a businessman, and so I'm going to ask you some tough questions in that realm. But okay, before I get to it, what other alternatives do you suggest that Charleston need as far as entertainment and recreation? One thing in particular is the previous administration. Folks say it was almost like a curfew. Everything shut down too early, at night. There was nothing to do, nowhere to go, other than bars. As far as entertainment life, and again, we're now starting to pick up some speed here. Chuck, what a lot of people don't realize is Diego Airport is now an international airport.
Right.
So more traffic is going to come through Charleston. And you're going to have to accommodate people, for their lifestyle. So my question to you is there an alternative that you can see maybe that can take place to help accommodate folks? Because again, when it comes to entertainment and nightlife and everything, that's more revenue for the city with the B&O taxes. Am I correct?
Right, it is, and I'm assuming you're talking about restaurants and music venues and
yes,
and things such as that.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you, one of the things I've had the honor to serve since 2019. I have been chair of the board of the Charleston Convention and Visitors Bureau, and we actually work to coordinate a lot of those folks that are coming in. for conventions. We just went through it with the ball games, with the girls and the boys high school basketball tournaments that came through here. And one of the things that we've been working with in CVB is to keep the venues better apprised of who's coming, when they're coming, what they're going to, where they're going to be when they get here, what's their schedule, so that those venues can begin planning accordingly. It's particularly important for our restaurants and places like that to make sure that they're staffed up, that they have the food ordered, particularly in these days post-COVID where, thank God I've not been in the restaurant business, because those folks have had a rough go of it. It's been hard to tell and plan. They've got shortages of materials or of food at times, but they know what to stock up on, and they know when to stock up because we're communicating with them through the CVB. I think a lot of that is that type of coordination. We do this all through text. There's a text. A lot of the venues downtown, the restaurants, the retailers, and not just downtown, but throughout the city, receive updates of, this group's coming in, this is how many of them there are, this is a little bit of what their schedule is. And so we can then begin to anticipate those needs and make sure as a community we're ready to deal with them. And it takes a lot of coordination, because you're dealing with, you can't go down and I can't tell Ellen's Ice Cream down on Capitol Street, gee, you have to stay open to midnight every night. That's a decision for them to make, but we can encourage that. We can say, hey, gee, there's this group of people that are going to be down here and they're going to be wanting to eat ice cream. So let's open the doors and let them do it.
Great response, great response. Now we'll get to the good part.
Okay.
All right. Chuck, you're a business owner, and in the realm of business, we're looking at new businesses coming to Charleston. And a lot of folks, they complain and they say, businesses come in here, they don't pay taxes, they set up shop, they make their money and then they up and leave. I know the difference between a small business owner and, we'll say, a major business owner. For example, Macy's.
Right.
So explain to the viewers between the two, where does tax breaks help small business owners? I'm sure dollar for dollar, the tax breaks to the big companies is much bigger. How do you rectify bringing in more business to Charleston and tackle and overcome the obstacle of the tax breaks? Because again, that's a big argument right there itself.
It is, and I'm I guess I initially am not a huge advocate of offering lots of tax breaks to companies to locate here. I think there's a better way to do it, and I think that's to make Charleston the best place it can possibly be. We make sure.
Let me jump in.
Yeah.
So you're not a huge proponent of that. So, in your opinion, what would be a good solution for that?
Well, I think a whole lot of those tax breaks are not done at the city level, but done at the state level. That's the first thing. I'm assuming there have been some done at the city level, but most of that is done at the state legislature. I think we have to advocate the legislature what's best for our city and what's best for our community, and not just we've got to diversify the economy. When I was up at the legislature for years, actually Senator Kessler, who was out of the Wheeling area, tried for years to get legislation passed to take, I think it was 1 or 2% of the coal severance tax money to put into a fund to do economic diversification in the state. And a lot of the extraction industries fought that tooth and nail. They didn't want the competition. They want the competition for jobs. They like being the big dogs in town. And that was dollars that could have been used for grants, could have been used for some seed money. I think there are things that can be done way beyond tax breaks, because I agree with you. I think a lot of those, are largely done by the larger firms. It pits city against city, state against state. It becomes a bidding war, and exactly as you said, after whichever area does it, and the tax breaks are over, the company starts it again and gets another tax break somewhere else and goes there. It's for our small businesses, and that's what I'm mainly experienced with, as well as what I'm involved in. There are things that cities can do that can make a miraculous change for our businesses. We saw a lot of that during COVID. The small business grant program that the city put into place. Actually, my shop is on Poirier Street. The shop right next door to me, Art Emporium, is in a couple of weeks opening up with a complete remodel that has happened, and a big portion of that financing came from the city grant program, as well as dollars that she put in and dollars that the building owners put in. So there's been this, it's leveraged more dollars to work in the economy. It's going to change her business dramatically, and it put people to work while it was happening. That all those are great things. I do think we're in a period where we can attract businesses. We can also attract individuals who are working for larger businesses because of remote working, which has been supercharged through COVID. Charleston becomes a very attractive place to look to relocate. Our cost of living is relatively low when you compare it to other cities. There is access to recreation things. Being an hour from a national park now is a big driver of making this more attractive to people. And that means we've got to have high-speed internet. We need to make sure we have a good base, strong base of good small businesses and services available to them. Going back to your other point, might mean we need to ramp up some hours in some of these to make sure that there's things for everybody to do and when they want to do them. And we've got to have good, strong neighborhoods. We have to have places where people want to live, that are affordable and that are able to be safe for their families. I think, when you talk about attracting business, I think it's the overall picture of what's the environment in the city. Are we non-discriminatory? Are we making sure that this is the place that's welcoming for all, that we're not discriminating in housing, in jobs, in healthcare, that folks have access to the services they need, that they have things to do on the weekends, that it's an enjoyable place to live. I think we have the basic structure for that. I think we've got a lot of good things going for us. I think we can do even more. All those things make us attractive to businesses. But the cornerstone of our economy is small business. And I don't see that changing dramatically anytime soon. Maybe we'll land an Amazon in here. We'll have to see. Time will tell. There is an interesting thing that's happening right now in the country, though, and it's once again has come out of COVID, and it's kind of been referred to as being onshoring, and where these huge companies have for years now offshored, and the production of supplies and parts and things like that, because of COVID and supply chain issues, are now looking at, oh, gee, we need to onshore that. We need to make sure those things are made in this country, and that we don't run into the same problems that we've run into for the past 2.5 years. And so there may be some opportunities to come up to attract larger businesses and larger firms. To do that, we have to have the neighborhoods, we have to have the housing, we have to have the internet. We have to make sure that Charleston's a place that folks want to come and live. And I believe we can be those things.
2 more questions, I'm gonna let you go. Question 1. It's a hot topic. I have discussed this many times. I've even discussed it to the point where I have been called a racist. Chuck, how do we solve race, inclusion, and diversity?
Well, once again, there's no silver bullet. We're doing some of it right now by talking and listening to each other. More than talking is listening. It's going to, I think it's going to take that type of conversation. That's one of the reasons I told you that I like your show. I think bringing folks together to talk about what's important to them. And we're able to find what's, what are the things we have in common? What are the things that we have that we need to work on? I believe, and I think we've seen a lot of this in the city right now. I think there's been, great improvements with the police department. Probably not enough yet, but they're doing the trainings. They're doing talking. I believe the police chief is, he wants to be out into the communities and wants the police to be seen as friends. And as someone that we can count on. I think that's important. It's, and I know I've said this a lot, but it's kind of a core belief of mine of that, someone's running for office and they tell you they got all the answers, I wouldn't vote for them. Someone that doesn't have any answers, I wouldn't vote for them either, but someone willing to sit down and talk and lay out how they think and listen. And hear what other people have to think. I think that's how we get at these hard issues. It is tough. It's and I think there is, I've been through sessions because I believe that there is some inherent prejudices that sometimes we have. Even maybe unbeknownst to us. My grandfather, who I love dearly, was was not a man that respected other races. I guess I'll just put it that way. It was interesting though. It was as a whole, as individuals, he would sit down and talk with folks and do real well. And I think that's why we have to do a lot more talk, and a lot more listening, and making sure that people's needs are being met. I am proud of the city of Charleston for some of the anti-discrimination policies we have into effect. I think we also have to constantly be vigilant that those are going to be undermined from preemption from the state. We saw attempts to do some of that this year. We're seeing it in other states, and I think we have to be inclusive. We have to all live together and work together and listen to each other.
Final question, and I don't know if you mentioned this. I'm going to give you 3 minutes.
Okay.
Here's the toughest question. Please tell the viewers why Chuck Hamsher is running for city council.
Well, I'm running first and foremost because I believe in our city. I believe in our people. This is where I've chosen to live. It's where I raised my family. It's where I believe it's a good place to raise families. But we can make it better. We can improve our neighborhoods. We can deal with these hard issues. I mean, we've talked about a lot of these here today, the homelessness, the addiction, the things like that let's buckle down and as a community, let's work and find solutions to some of these things. And that's what I've done throughout my career, is bring people of diverse opinions together to talk about things, to come up with, you know, what really always stay focused on what the solution is. I'm in this race because I've been concerned watching politics, not just in Charleston, all throughout the country, becoming a little uglier, a little more gotcha, more than it is of coming to a solution. They want to trap people into things. I don't think that's what government's supposed to be. I think government is supposed to be responsive to the citizens that they're there to serve. That's what I would like to be as a member of city council. I believe that we can address these issues, we can solve them, we can build our city, we can make it better. And I do all that because I know we have a good foundation right now. I think the people here are great. We have a great small business community. You know, talking about businesses, I mean, the longevity of some of the small businesses we have here is off the chart from when you look at other places that we've got. You know, I think downtown here, and we've got small businesses that have been here for 15 and 20 and 25 years, 30 years. You know, we've got a record store in Kanawha City that's been just celebrated their 50th year. I'm talking about an industry that has changed dramatically. That the independent record stores have almost completely gone by the wayside. They've been there and been able to hold out. I think we have good building blocks here. Let's put it together and let's build a place that people want to be in, people want to live here, people want to visit, and people want to raise their families. And so that's why I'm running. And I think I bring some skills to the table from running a small business, from being involved for years in public advocacy, and that's what I would hope to add to council. You know, one of the things, and I think it gets lost in a lot of these discussions that happen on the city council races, you know, 80% or more of the job is making sure the sewers are running well and that there's good tires on the fire trucks and all these non-sexy issues. They're not the things that are hot button or really things, but that's a big part of the job. It's making sure that the city runs. Is the trash getting picked up? Are those things happening? But all of these are important, and I'm running to give back because the city has been very good to me. It's been good to my family, and I hope to earn people's vote.
Chuck Hamsher, thank you very much for coming on to Our Voices. You take care and be safe, okay? Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.